Yes, welcome back. Or if you're new to the show, welcome to another podcast episode. I am Kelvin Dooley, and please do me a favor like, comment, or subscribe to my channel. You could also tap the notifications button and be notified when I drop a new video every week. I am back today to give you guys a new video ranking all 16 games for the Kansas City Chiefs this upcoming 2019-2020 season. This should be fun. I won't go into great detail about every game, minor details here and there, but I'm just going to rank 1 through 16, all 16 games for the Chiefs this upcoming season. Let's get things underway. The Chiefs, in this schedule, they are playing the AFC South and the NFC North this season. Their two add-ons or add-in or their throw-in games are the Patriots and the Baltimore Ravens. Speaking of those New England Patriots, the number one ranked game for the Kansas City Chiefs this upcoming season, Week 14, December 8th, on the road in Foxborough against the New England Patriots. The Chiefs are 0-2, or Patrick Mahomes is 0-2 against the Patriots. We lost both of those losses coming last year by way of the regular season and the AFC title game in Kansas City in Arrowhead Stadium. A loss that I still have yet to get over, by the way. But that's neither here nor there. This is the number one game for this reason. It's late in the season. It's on the road. The playoff implications in this game are this may be right. This game here alone might be the best game of the season. I think 2 of the 5 best games in the NFL season came against the Patriots. It was this matchup right here, Chiefs versus Patriots, their regular season loss, their regular season shootout, and the overtime game in the AFC title game in Arrowhead Stadium. Those are 2 of the best 5 games in all of football last season, and we get a late season matchup. And this is why this is This is why it's also another big game, and why it's number one. It's in December, and it's November. It's December when the Patriots really get to rolling, right? We spend the first month and a half, 2 months, discounting the Patriots. Oh, well, they're not the same this year. Brady's a year older. They don't have the talent. The usual criticisms, right? It's the month of December, November, January where the Patriots find their stride and they start to look like that team. They may end up in the Super Bowl again, right? And by week 14, we have seen plenty of this defense. By week 14, I expect Tyreek Hill to be on this team. I expect Tyreek Hill to be playing. It should make for a very, very intriguing game. I wouldn't expect nothing short of another magnificent game. I expect nothing short of Jim Nantz and Tony Romo on CBS. This should be a banger of a game. This is easily number one right here. Chiefs, Patriots. It doesn't matter which venue, Arrowhead or Foxborough. I want to see this game, the number one ranked game. Chiefs on the road in Foxborough against the Patriots. Week 14, December 8th. Mark your calendars. Number 2, I have week 17, December 29th, against the LA Chargers in Arrowhead Stadium. This is number 2. You can make the case that the playoff implications in this game are much greater, given the fact that this is a division rival, given the fact that the Chargers beat the Chiefs on the road in Arrowhead Stadium last season on a Thursday night game, a game that I attended, a game that I don't think I've gotten over that game neither. Right? And allow me to go back to the Patriots real quick. That game right there could very much so determine the number 1 overall seed. Back to the Chargers. Again, this is a division game. Last final week of the season, right? So this game, if the season turns out how we think it is, this game could very much so come down to the wire. This could be the deciding factor of the number 1 seed, the number 2 seed, the division This is a huge, huge game. I have another podcast episode coming out later where I discuss why the hell are even the Chargers considered favorites to win this division. I'll get to that later. You guys will hear that later this week. But Week 17, December 29th against the Chargers in Arrowhead Stadium, a place that the Chargers aren't afraid of going and playing football because, again, they showed up last year on a short week and beat the Chiefs in Arrowhead Stadium. On a comeback, they were trailing 14 points to, the final 3 or 4 minutes and went on to score, 15 unanswered. So that's a huge game. That is a game I'm really looking forward to. Division game, playoff implications late in the season. All of the above. That is a phenomenal game. That's number 2. Number 3, I'm staying in the division. I'm going week 2, September 15th, on the road against the Oakland Raiders. Why is this number 3, right, when this is arguably the worst team in our division? This is number 3 because of this. If you're the Chiefs, one, you don't want to lose this division game, especially given that you have the Jaguars to open up the season, the team that we all expect, or at least I do, we expect to bounce back and have a quality season. This game is specifically, the Raiders, open up the season with 2 straight division games, right? 2 straight in their first 3 at home. They get their first 3 games total at home and open up against 2 division rivals. If the Chiefs can add a second loss to the Raiders, they open up against the Broncos, if I'm not mistaken. If the Raiders lose to the Broncos and go on the road and beat the Raiders and drop those guys to 0-2 to begin this season, that is a great start for the Kansas City Chiefs. An even better start for our division rival and most hated Oakland Raiders. Right? If you can get that 2-game lead on the Oakland Raiders, you don't want to give these guys life early. Don't give Derek Carr and John Gruden life early. Kick those guys where they're down. Kick them early. That's why that game is number 3. It's on the road. Prior to the Chargers, that is the last division opponent to beat us. It's the rivalry. All numbers, all records out the door. Both teams come to play. That's number 3. Number 4, a rematch of last year's AFC divisional game in Arrowhead Stadium. Week 5, October 6th against the Indianapolis Colts. Andrew Luck comes back to Kansas City where the weather won't be as bad, I assume, like it was in December. Or, that was January. This is number 4. Look, these are – I think Andrew Luck is the best quarterback in football. Patrick Mahomes is elite. I think this is going to sound nuts, but I don't think Mahomes is a top 3 quarterback yet. I would like to see Mahomes duplicate – not exactly duplicate – just have similar success for a second year in a row before I ascend him to the best quarterback in football, or even top 3 for that matter. So the best quarterback in football against another elite quarterback in Patrick Mahomes. This is the rematch. It's early in the season. The weather should be much, much warmer. These are 2 good teams. I think the Colts have quietly just upgraded their roster this season. That was a young team this year. That young team is a year older in the Colts. Right, so they even got Justin Houston. His return to Kansas City should also be pretty fun to watch. It's a good early season test for the Kansas City Chiefs. It's a AFC game, so this game as well has huge playoff implications, right? In terms of a 1 seed possibly, 2, home field advantage. That's a huge game right there. Just the matchup alone, the headline that is Luck versus Mahomes. That got me right there. Say no more. Say less. Those 2 quarterbacks, I'm tuned in. I want to see those 2 quarterbacks go head-to-head. You can make the case that this is the next great quarterback rivalry. We've seen Peyton and Brady. It could be Mahomes, Luck, Mahomes, Mayfield, Luck, Mayfield, however you want to slice it. Those 2 quarterbacks I want to see. That's number 4. Number 5, to open up the season opener, week 1, September 8th, on the road in Jacksonville against the Jacksonville Jaguars. I alluded to this earlier. This is a team I expect to bounce back in the Jaguars. They have a Super Bowl winning quarterback. They still have a really, really talented defense. a defense that really underperformed last year. I don't expect those guys to duplicate that performance. I expect the Jaguars to contend, at least for a division title, and contend in the playoffs. Jaguars is a really, really talented team. I'm really interested to see that offense in Nick Foles, who is familiar with Andy Reid and the West Coast system. Also being the quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles, where he won the Super Bowl under Doug Peterson, who is under the coaching tree of Andy Reid. So he's very, very familiar with the Chiefs and Andy Reid, for that matter. I would like to see him leading that offense against this revamped Chiefs defense. We get a good early test. Not the best test, not better than the Patriots, Chargers, the Raiders, for that matter, or even the Colts. But it's a solid week 1 season opening test, and it's on the road in Jacksonville. Again, against a really good defense. I don't expect the Jaguars to contend for a top 3 seed, or at least two. But if that defense returns to form and Nick Foles, if he's everything that we think he is, that team could contend for a 1 or 2 seed. So I got that as number 5 to open up the season. Number 6, the Baltimore Ravens. In my opinion, the best game for the Chiefs, the game that I enjoyed the most, the game that I thought was the best of the season for the Chiefs, at least, was in Arrowhead Stadium against those Baltimore Ravens. We've seen the number 1 offense against the number 1 defense. And the Chiefs, by the skin of their teeth, if it wasn't for Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill's heroics, the Baltimore Ravens, who was the hottest team to finish out the season by far, they win that game, right? And they probably could avoid the the LA Chargers in that wild card game where they end up losing. So that was a fun game. I thought that was the best game, better than the Rams matchup against the Rams, better than both matchups against the Patriots. I thought that game right there was the best game of the season. That's number 6. We get to see Lamar Jackson, and this is early. Week 3, again, like I said, we get to see how much Lamar Jackson has improved. We get to see Chiefs, this offense, who is missing Tyreek Hill, against this, I don't want to say revamped or rebuilt defense of the Baltimore Ravens, because they did lose a lot this offseason. If it's one defense that I trust to really pick up the slack and return back to damn near a dominant form, it is the Baltimore Ravens. So we get to see a Tyreek Hill-less offense against a remodeled Baltimore Ravens defense early in the season, week 3 in Arrowhead Stadium. That should be fun. Number 7, the game in Mexico, the game that should have been against the LA Rams last season. We get a second shot in Mexico, November 18th, Monday Night Football against the LA Chargers. This is the first matchup. Both matchups against the Chargers are second half of the season matchups. I think that is great for the NFL, especially for this division as well. Look, the Chiefs are on an international stage with this game. You expose Patrick Mahomes and his gunslinging arm and this offense to an international audience. If they hadn't already known, they will know November 18th on Monday Night Football. National audience already. We expect the Chargers to show up and show out. That is a really, really good team. I have no hate for the Chargers like I do the Broncos or the Raiders. But that is a damn good team. I must give that roster, Anthony Lynn and company, credit. That is a really, really well-constructed team. Very, very talented. I am just not convinced that they can beat the Chiefs. I think if it wasn't for the luck of, I don't know what they call that choke job the Chiefs pulled in Arrowhead Stadium last season on Thursday night. I'm just not convinced that this team can beat the Chiefs, the LA Chargers. I just don't see it, honestly. I just don't. But that right there alone should make for a very interesting matchup. Hopefully the field is in great condition so football can be played in Mexico. I think that's just phenomenal. Get football off of American soil. I think that's also unlike sports like baseball, where I I'm not sold that baseball is that much fun off of American soil compared to football and basketball, where it is fun. I think it just makes for better television. It makes for better marketing, bigger, better fan bases to see those sports off of American soil. But that's number 7, Mexico, Monday Night Football against the LA Chargers. The Chargers are the home team in that game. Number 8, finish off the first half of the season, or the first half of the rankings, on the road in Mile High Stadium against the Denver Broncos, October 17th, Week 7, short week, Thursday Night Football. The Broncos put up 2 good fights against the Chiefs last year. 2 quality fights. You can make the case that one of those games they should have had a victory. But if it wasn't for a poor Case Keenum throw, and you can make the case that Patrick Mahomes' left arm heroics saved the Chiefs that night as well. It's a division game. The Broncos still have a really good defense. They probably have the best pass rushing duo in football. I think Chris Jones and Frank Clark will make a case for number 1 this season. But again, the Broncos they still have a really talented defense. I think they have steadily declined over the last 4 seasons, but very steadily, but very, very slow. But I think there has been a decline though over the last 4 seasons. It's a division game, so it should make for a very, very interesting game against the division rival in Broncos. And I'm very interested to see by Week 7 how this Denver Bronco offense has got rolling, to see what Joe Flacco has to offer in a Denver Bronco uniform. To the second half of the rankings, if you notice in that first half, there was no NFC teams. No NFC teams. I'm going to go through it one more time. Patriots, Chargers, Raiders, Colts, Jags, Ravens, Chargers, Broncos. At the Patriots, at the Raiders, at the Jags, in Mexico, and at the Broncos. No NFC teams. None whatsoever. So this second half includes 4 of our NFC matchups against the NFC North. And it starts with a NFC North team, the Chicago Bears. We're on the road, Week 16, December 22nd, against the Chicago Bears. Similar to the matchup against the Ravens last season, we could possibly see the number 1 offense against the number 1 defense, even later in the season. And I assume in December 22nd, frozen conditions in Chicago, very windy. What brings me a lot of joy here is we have a kicker here in Kansas City in Harrison Butker, who just got a 5-year, $20 million extension. The Bears can't – I don't know if 43 is just the wrong number, or they just don't have a kicker. Maybe it's just a mix of both. Maybe they can't kick from 43, and they just don't happen to have a kicker. But all of that aside, Trubisky versus Mahomes, that defense versus this offense, Nagy versus Reed. This should be fun. This is a great matchup right here. We get to see Khalil Mack. Our offensive linemen are very, very familiar with Khalil Mack, having seen him with the exception of last season, the previous 3 to 4 seasons. So we're very familiar with his talents and how he can wreck a football game. So that should make for a very, very fun football game. Again, Week 16, cold, windy in Chicago. That's awesome. Number 10, the Green Bay Packers. The Packers visit Arrowhead Stadium, Week 8, October 27th. Look, widely considered the most talented quarterback of all time in Aaron Rodgers against the heir apparent, the one really soon to dethrone Aaron Rodgers, I think, in that title as the most talented quarterback in football in Patrick Mahomes. So we get to see that matchup for the first time. That should be a joy. It is widely considered, and even by myself as well, that Aaron Rodgers and the Packers should have a bounce-back season and should be contending for a division title and possibly a Super Bowl as well. We get to see this defense against that revamped defense. Our offense against that revamped Green Bay Packer defense. The Packers have made a lot of moves this offseason to improve that defense, to give Aaron Rodgers some hope, or at least on that side of the ball. We get to see how that defense fares on the road in Kansas City. And even Aaron Rodgers against our defense, our revamped, our newly structured defense. We get to see A-Rod attack our defense as well. This is a classic throwback football game, right? Two franchises that are very familiar with each other. So that should be the headline there, which has my attention off top. Rodgers, Mahomes. Very first matchup of all time. That should be very, very fun. Number 11, another NFC North opponent. The Detroit Lions. We are on the road. We head to Ford Field September 29th. And this is week 4 against those Detroit Lions. I think the Lions could be a sleeper this year. I'm just going to say that about the Lions. I've always been a fan of Matthew Stafford. I think they have a really young, talented defense. I'm interested to see what Stafford does with his new tight end and his array of weapons now this year. Second-year play caller up there in Detroit. I forget the head coach's name, the guy with the pencil in his head, and the former defensive coordinator. I won't bother to try to remember, but that should make for a fun matchup. I don't really get to see the Lions play that often, but I know they have a quarterback that I like. They have their franchise quarterback. Honestly, it's just make for a good matchup. The Detroit Lions, I expect to be, again, a sleeper in the NFC this season. Number 12, you could probably make the case that this should be much, much higher, actually. But I got it at number 12. I got the Houston Texans at home or on the road in Arrowhead Stadium, October 13th, week 6. Deshaun Watson versus Patrick Mahomes. That defense, they still have a talented defense, aging very fast. We don't know what what a horrible stutter right there. Jadeveon Clowney, we didn't know if he'll play. We assume so. We assume he'll get his money eventually, but they still have a talented defense. I'm interested to see if they could hold on, if they could protect Deshaun Watson from Frank Clark and Chris Jones, for all that matters. So, but that quarterback duo, that quarterback matchup alone should be very fun. Very intrigued by that. 13, Minnesota Vikings on the road in Arrowhead Stadium, November 3rd, week 9. The Vikings underperformed last year just as a whole. Offense, defense, play calling, the whole 9 after giving that huge contract to Kirk Cousins. This game doesn't really intrigue me all that often. That still has a very talented defense. They have a corner that I would like, and Xavier Rhodes. I think he would make a great Kansas City Chief. But that should be a fun matchup. We get to see the Vikings come on down to Kansas City, come to the Midwest, and take on our Kansas City Chiefs. Number 14, the pettiness in me wants to put this like number 3 or even 2. But we're on the road against the Tennessee Titans, and we owe the Titans an ass whooping after that choke job we did a couple seasons ago in the AFC playoffs. In the playoffs, where the Titans scored 22 unanswered points in the second half. I'll just leave it at that. November 10th, week 10, we had to Tennessee to take on the Tennessee Titans. Week 15, the Oakland Raiders, December 1st, week 13. This is the first game following a bye. Our bye is week 12. This is 15 because, look, Andy Reid quite simply doesn't lose following a bye. I don't expect the Raiders to be much of anything come week 13. I expect those guys to be a shell of themselves and a complete mess and a debacle come week 13 anyway. So that's why that's number 15. And then to end the season, or to end this rankings at least, the Denver Broncos, December 15th, week 15. I expect the same thing from the Denver Broncos as I just alluded to with the Raiders. Not quite dysfunction and to those guys to be a shell of themselves, but I expect to see a rookie quarterback in Drew Lock in the game. I don't expect much from that offense. It's late in the season. You're just trying to get lock reps at this point. I don't expect Flacco to have gotten this far in the season. So there you have it. All 16 games have been ranked. I'm going to run through them one more time. Number 1, on the road against the Patriots. 2, at home against the Chargers. 3, on the road against the Raiders. 4, at home, Arrowhead Stadium against the Colts. 5, on the road against the Jags. 6, at home against the Ravens. 7, LA Chargers in Mexico. 8, on the road in Denver. 9, at Bears. 10, at home against the Packers. 11, in Ford Field in Detroit against the Lions. 12, at home against the Texans. 13, at home against the Vikings. 14, on the road against the Titans. 15, Raiders. 16, Broncos. Both of those games are at home in Arrowhead Stadium. I am Kelvin Dooley. Like, comment, or subscribe to my channel. You could also hit the notifications button and be notified when I drop a video every week. I appreciate you guys tuning in, and you'll hear from me again. Thank you guys for tuning in.